Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning's webinar, which will be presented by Mark Barrow, and it will be on Manage Your SolidWorks Designs in the Cloud with the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. If you have any questions, put them in the question box of the GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll try and answer these as we go along, but more than likely we'll answer most of them at the end. And please enjoy it. Mark, over to you.
Thanks, Joe. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for taking the time out this morning to join today's webinar. So, as Joe said, if you get any questions as we go through the topic this morning, then please type in the questions box in the GoToMeeting control panel. And of course, if you have any issues seeing the screen, just raise your hand, and Joe and my colleagues will do their best to get you sorted out. So before we get into today's topic, I just want to rewind for a moment. So many of you on this morning's webinar were on the Manage Your Designs from Home 3DEXPERIENCE platform webinar I did a couple of weeks ago, and I talked through some of the basics of the cloud platform. And at the end of that session, we had many questions around lifecycle and revision control and how can you take it further with managing your SolidWorks data. So this morning, I'm going to go a little deeper into the 3DEXPERIENCE platform and show you how you can use it to manage your product development process. Now, if you didn't get a chance to watch that session, then the recording is available. And at the end of today's webinar, we'll provide you with a link. So if you haven't seen it before and you do want to go back and watch it, then you can go and see it at your leisure. Now, for those of you that weren't on the previous webinar, before we get into the technology then this morning, let's start by talking about collaboration for a few minutes, and specifically, how do product development teams collaborate today? And I'd like to run a quick poll to get a bit of feedback from all of you on the webinar to see how you're managing your product development process today. So I'm sure many of you are using things like Windows Explorer, network drives, possibly. Maybe some of you are even starting to use some cloud file sharing capabilities with SolidWorks. I'm sure we've got a lot of you using SolidWorks PDM today, or maybe some other PDM tools as well. Okay, so I'm going to close the poll and let's take a look at the results. Okay, so we can see that, yeah, a lot of you, as I'd expect, a lot of you are just using network drives, Windows Explorer. That's a pretty typical way of managing your SolidWorks designs. Good to see a third of you using SolidWorks PDM as well, and I can see a few of you, of course, are using cloud file sharing at the same time. So just one more before we continue. Be interested, because today we're going to be talking about our 3DEXPERIENCE cloud solution for managing a product development process. So it'd be interesting to see, how many of you are thinking of moving to a cloud-based platform for managing product development, rather than a traditional kind of on-premise server-based at your offices type infrastructure. So again, I can see a lot of you, it's quite a mix. A lot of you are already using cloud today. And again, a lot of you are using, thinking of moving to cloud within a year, within the next 3 years. So yeah, it's thank you very much for adding your feedback to the polls. And we can see, yeah, a lot of you are planning to move to cloud. So fits very well with what we're going to talk about over the next 25 minutes or so. So of course, when we're working on product development projects, developing new product designs, there's lots of information that flies around, and we often spend a huge amount of time sat in meetings, getting bombarded with emails and working with disconnected processes, and also disconnected software products quite often. And long gone are the days as well, where most of us spend 5 days a week working at our desks, 8 hours a day, and we're often, when times go back to more normality, we're often traveling to meet customers and suppliers, meaning that we need to access project information when we're at the office. And of course, the majority of us having to adapt to a new world of working remotely with everyone. So being able to access your product development information remotely out the office is more important than ever at the moment. So with any product development project, of course, we absolutely have to be in control of what we're sharing with who, and we also want to make sure that how we share the content is secure and simple, which is just really important and built right into our day-to-day processes. So that's a bit about how we do things today. And again, thank you for the feedback that you've provided. It's really interesting to see. So what about doing things differently with the 3DEXPERIENCE platform? So the 3DEXPERIENCE platform helps solve the challenges faced by many product development companies by providing one single collaborative cloud-based environment, connecting all project stakeholders, ideas and design data and solutions. And by using the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, you and your design teams can quickly and easily review and evaluate your SolidWorks designs as they develop. And because the 3DEXPERIENCE platform is cloud-based, it means you can do all of this on any device, whether you're in the office or working remotely from home, or out working with suppliers or with a design partner on site. Essentially, all you need is an internet connection. You can log in via web browser, via mobile device, and work on your design project wherever you are. So let's go ahead then and look at the solution in more detail. So for the next 25 minutes or so, I'm going to walk you through the story based around one of our SolidWorks customers who are based in Canada. It's a company called Bowhead. And the co-founder, Christian Bagg, is a machinist and a designer by career. And back in 1996, Christian had an injury snowboarding, which eventually led him to set up his own company, designing adaptive equipment for people who have disabilities and designing equipment to help them get outside and enjoy the great outdoors, still be able to get out in the mountains, out in the hills. So the team I'm going to be focusing on this morning are 4 individuals who I'm sure have similar roles to many of you attending today, and their mission is to refine the prototype design of the Bowhead Reach off-road wheelchair and prepare it for mass production. So let's introduce some of the characters or team members that are going to be part of the story. So Pete's the project and product manager, and just like many of you on the webinar today, wears multiple hats while trying to stay focused on pulling together resources to get the job done. And then we've got Don, who's one of the mechanical designers, who needs a solution that will enable him to access all of the design data and work on it remotely as well. So he's using SolidWorks as his primary design tool, and he needs to be keeping the team he's working with up to date at all times as he makes those design changes and develops the products using SolidWorks. And then we've got Debbie. So Debbie, again, is your mechanical engineer, but she also gets involved with producing other documentation around the design. So she's using tools like SolidWorks Composer to produce tech pubs, and also using tools like SolidWorks Visualize to produce marketing content as the designs develop as well. And then finally, we've got Adam. So what team is complete without a simulation engineer? So Adam's using some of the simulation capabilities that are available on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform with Simulia, and refining and validating the different revisions of the designs as they get generated from SolidWorks. So before we dive in to the software itself, let's take a look at Bowhead's collaborative environment and how the information flows through the team. So it all starts with Pete. So Pete, doing his product manager duties, he starts by researching the market, collecting feedback from some prototype testers. So he's working with external stakeholders outside of Bowhead. Then he analyzes the data, and then he uses and stores all the information in one location on his 3DEXPERIENCE dashboard, making it easy to access, easy to stay on top of, and easy to share with others. And then from that, he generates a project plan. And then from that plan, he creates the tasks, assigns the team members to the tasks. And then the design team work using SolidWorks, creating quite a dynamic design product development environment. So creating lots of revisions, different iterations of a design. All the time, Adam needs to be able to use the simulation tools to validate those designs. So he needs to have access to the latest revisions to be able to work on them, and know that he's always working with the right version at the right time. And then when all of those changes are made, it's important to keep track of all those different revisions and keep track of the history so they're not stepping on each other's toes. So that all needs to be stored in a centralized location so that everyone can access it during Bowhead's highly collaborative design process. And then finally, Pete needs to be informed and kept up to date at all times, being the project manager. So he needs to be able to review the design in a real simple format. He doesn't want to waste time having to search for things and find them. So it all sounds simple when you say, even though it's a pretty small team, but when you step back and take a look, it can look a little bit overwhelming. And it can get even more confusing if you're working with a handful of disconnected software applications to manage all of these different responsibilities and activities. So next, let's take a look at how easy all of this can be if we were to use one unified cloud solution with the 3DEXPERIENCE platform to get it all done. So let's start with Pete then. So Pete's going to log in first thing in the morning using his web browser. So as I've mentioned already, the 3DEXPERIENCE platform is a cloud-based product development platform. So Pete logs in via his web browser with his account information, and he's faced then with his daily dashboard. So he could be doing this on a mobile device. He doesn't have to be using a workstation. And straight away, he goes into his team's design community. So by using a community where team members are posting information, he can very easily just see what's been going on a particular project. He might want to look at some of the SolidWorks designs that have been generated. So again, within his dashboard, he can literally just search for the top level wheelchair assembly and drag it out into the 3D Play viewer. So without having to open it in SolidWorks or use some other viewing software, he can literally just review and interact with the SolidWorks design directly just from his web browser. So as simple as that. So he's happy with what he sees, and then going back to the design community, he's going to add a post to the team. Yeah, looks great. We're going to go ahead and create some prototypes. So we'll look at communities in a bit more detail as we go through the presentation. But you can think of these as a bit like Facebook or LinkedIn for engineering. So rather than sending lots and lots of emails around all the time with attachments, and it can be very difficult to keep track of all of that on a project. The community gives you essentially a completely traceable history of a project as it develops. So we're going to fast forward a few weeks or a month or so, and they've gone ahead and created some prototype wheelchairs and shared those designs with their customers. So we have a second community here that Pete's created, where he's actually invited customers into their 3DEXPERIENCE platform. So the customers have created their own posts within the community. And as you're working, again, with communities, you can categorize your posts into different areas. So for example, if you categorize a post as an idea, you can actually capture all of those ideas in a ideas funnel and move them through a series of stage gates. So you've got a complete traceable and trackable history of your thought process event, essentially, as your design develops. And this is all searchable in the future. So again, if you're working on a new project and maybe you had some ideas, you captured them, but they didn't make it to implementation. And then, but maybe in 6 months' time, you decide, oh, we had a great idea on that project. It's all searchable. You can call it back up and you can see the history that, the comments and the information that everybody shared on that idea. So it can be a really powerful way of capturing information and product development information as you refine your designs. So Pete's got some feedback from the testers. So he's going to use that then, well, in addition to that, he's going to create a survey with his customers. So this is another tool that you can use as part of the community aspect of the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. So he runs a survey with those customers to get feedback on what is the most important area that they feel that those prototypes need to be developed further. So again, it's a powerful way of gathering information from stakeholders outside of your business. So it could not just be customers, it might be in your situation, you're working with suppliers and inviting suppliers into your collaborative environment or other design partners. So we're going to move back to a different tab on Pete's daily dashboard. So there are many other tools you can use on a dashboard to track information. So you might be tracking industry information. You might even just be, having a link into the SolidWorks training pages on here. So any information you need to access really on a daily or weekly basis, you can view within your 3DEXPERIENCE dashboard. So it's more than just a tool for managing your SolidWorks files. So Pete's going to share that feedback from the survey, from the customer survey with the design team. So he's going to publish that information to the design community to get their feedback. So now by simply publishing it, if Pete goes back up to his community tab, you can see the post he's created. And if we again fast forward a few moments, then the team members are going to then comment on and get the feedback. So that's the first part of the story. So really, that's an example of how, as a project manager, Pete can use the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, working with his daily dashboard to quickly search and review a design, get feedback from external stakeholders, and then share that information with the design community. So it's a powerful way of pulling information together from lots of different sources. So now Pete's got feedback from the customers. Next, what he's going to do is create a project plan. So he can do all of that within his 3DEXPERIENCE dashboard. So he's going to go up to his projects tab and create a new project. So he's going to go ahead and create some tasks, and then the designers are going to go and work and create some new revisions of the designs in SolidWorks. So he's going to go ahead, create a new project. First of all, so they're going to remove some material in a moment on some of the suspension components of the wheelchair. So first of all, he's going to assign the team members to the project. So Debbie, Don, and Adam. And then next, he's going to move to the Gantt style view and then start to define the tasks. So the great thing about the project planning tool here is the fact that you can literally start with maybe an end date, a milestone, and then just get all your tasks in there and then just drag and drop them around to define the schedule further. So first he's going to go ahead and create a new milestone, as you can see there. And then next, he's going to go and create the first design task, which is going to be the lightning, or removing some material on those suspension parts that I mentioned. So we can give it a name, of course, put in a duration to start with. So then what he's going to do is go and open the task and then assign the team members to that task. So you'll see in a minute, the team members will be notified that a task has been assigned to them. And what's also really important here is that Pete can attach the SolidWorks assembly, or it could be some parts, a drawing, even, or other documents as well, so that when the team members receive that task, rather than having to go searching for the design data somewhere else, all they do is open the task up and they can literally just drag and drop the SolidWorks content into their SolidWorks session to open it and start working on it. So this comes back to everybody working on a single source of the design data all the time, always knowing that they're working with the right version. So just fast forwarding a few minutes, then Pete's gone ahead and created some more tasks. So again, as I mentioned earlier, here we can simply just drag and drop to assign dependencies between tasks, play around with the schedule. So it's very quick and easy to get a project plan in place. So that's Pete generating the project plan, and of course he's done all of that inside the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. He's not had to go out into a completely separate project planning tool to do that, which might be disconnected from the main product development tools that they're using. So again, this is just to reiterate, this is all one single solution. So next, let's have a look at what the designers are going to do then within SolidWorks. So let's start with Don. So Don's got his own dashboard within inside 3DEXPERIENCE. So he logs into his own dashboard. So he's got a slightly different view to Pete. So these dashboards can be personalized to each user. So you just set them up and display the information you're interested in. But you can also have team dashboards as well. So if you're working on a shared project, you might have a project dashboard that keeps everybody informed of the status of different tasks and activities. So there are a few different ways that you can use these. There's a lot of flexibility in there. So Don, up in the top right hand corner, receives a notification from Adam on the task that Peter's assigned to them. So another way of communicating using the 3DEXPERIENCE platform is just to use comments on things like tasks over and above communities. And then all of that history is traceable and stored. So then to kick the task off, what Don does is just drags it to in progress. So that will also update the project plan for Pete as well. So he'll now see that that task has moved to in progress, keeping him informed, of course. And so Don's going to go ahead and use SolidWorks to make some changes. So he can launch SolidWorks from the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. And what that does is that starts SolidWorks up on his workstation, but it starts it up connected to the platform. So over here on the right-hand side, you can see he's got a task pane view, which gives him a live connection to 3DEXPERIENCE. So here, what he's going to do is first of all search for the suspension assembly, and he's interested in where that part's used or that assembly is used before he opens it, so he can view any references, any relations that assembly might have. So he needs to check that that front suspension assembly is maybe not used in a lot of other wheelchair designs before he goes ahead and changes it. So we can see the impact of any changes before he makes them very easily. So next, with that assembly open, then in Don's task pane view in SolidWorks, he's got a view then of all of the information regarding that design. So maybe the life cycle state or maturity state of the design, what revision the design's at, and also any other custom property information that the team might have added. So maybe material, finish, descriptions, you know, any custom properties that you've defined in SolidWorks can be displayed in the columns here and viewed. So given an easy view of all the information that you need. So what Don's going to do next is reserve some of these parts and make a change to them. So he's going to reserve them so that other team members are then notified that Don has got these kind of locked out to himself and he's working on them, so that, you know, we're avoiding the situation where two people are trying to work on the same thing at the same time. So you can see now some green keys appear on the parts that are locked out or reserved to Don. And then we're going to make a quick design change. So rather than, you know, spend the next 5 minutes doing some sketching and modeling work in SolidWorks, we'll just fast forward 5 or 10 minutes or so, and Don's gone ahead and added those cutouts to the suspension component. So he's got a couple of options here. He could save it in SolidWorks and just save it locally, because when he's opened this up from the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, it's downloaded it to his local working area on his workstation, which keeps a live connection to the platform. Now, if he was going to maybe go out and visit a supplier and didn't have an internet connection but still needed to be able to access that data, he can still open it up in SolidWorks from his local working area on his hard drive. And then when he's back online, he can connect back up to the platform and you know, submit his changes. So we can see that the parts are changed over on the right-hand side with those orange discs. So it's keeping the track of everything that's changed in session. So next, what Don needs to do is create some new revisions. So he's going to save these designs back to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. But at the same time, he's going to create new revisions of the parts that he's modified. So rather than just saving it to SolidWorks, he wants to submit these changes so the rest of the design team have then got visibility of his changes. He could also add revision comments at the same time, so put some notes against these revisions as well, which would be pretty useful for the other team members. And then now we've created revision B of the modified components, what Don's going to do to finish up is move those parts on to the next maturity state in the design life cycle. So rather than being in work now, he's going to move them to frozen, and that's like a pending review state. So it means that nobody with just the designer permissions can actually now unlock those and do any more work on them. So they're frozen, ready for Pete to review, to decide whether to release them or whether to put them back into work again. And then finally, with that task complete, rather than going back to Don's dashboard, you can actually access the task from inside SolidWorks. So the SolidWorks task pane becomes more than just a view of your design data. It's actually, you know, a complete a collaboration environment within SolidWorks. So we can move that task from within inside SolidWorks to done. Straight, so rather than having to go back to Don's dashboard. to do that. So it becomes really SolidWorks, that SolidWorks task bay becomes the one place that you can do all of your activities with inside SolidWorks. So pretty powerful. And then Don wants to share those changes with the rest of the team. So they can obviously look at it within 3D Play, but Don might want to add some notes to make things a bit clearer. So using the 3D Play viewer on Don's dashboard, so Don's gone back to his web browser, he's logged back in to his dashboard, and he can use the markup tools within 3D Play to add notes. So this is, again, really powerful because it's browser based, you can do this again on any device wherever you are. So you could be working on a tablet, again with a design partner, reviewing something, and then just adding notes using a pen or stylus. And not only are you just capturing it within the view here, but what Don's going to do next is actually share that view, those notes, with the rest of the community. And you can do this with other documents as well. It doesn't just have to be CAD data or SolidWorks data. You can do it on PDFs, images, maybe in photographs you've taken of prototypes that you might want to add notes to, for example. So there's a lot of different uses for this kind of thing. So a lot of flexibility there. So with that posted, that's added to the design community, and then we can see up in the top right-hand corner, Pete's commented on here. So if Don just opens up the post, you can see the comments from Pete. So again, they're not having to rely on email, attaching screenshots and things like that. They've got this easy to capture and easy to trace a thread of information as part of their design project. So finally, with all those changes that have taken place, let's check in with Debbie. So Debbie's working on the top level assembly. So Debbie gets notified in her 3D Experience task pane in SolidWorks that there's a later revision available of that front suspension assembly. So she can go ahead and swap the revision that she's got open with the latest revision that Don's created. And if Don had created more revisions, then she'd be able to choose which revision that she wants to use, or she could default to the latest, of course. And then finally, now she's swapped in the latest revision, she can go ahead and save that's the top level assembly back to the 3D Experience platform. Also, she's just swapped it live in session, and it's something just worth noting that if you're working with big assemblies, you know, you're not having to shut down everything and reopen it. You're literally just doing a live replace by getting a different revision. So you know, really easy as an engineer using SolidWorks to swap out and swap in different revisions, and then obviously you can do all your design validation checks within SolidWorks. So finally, Debbie's created revision B of that top level assembly, and then we're going to fast forward a day or so, and then Debbie's gone off and used some tools like SolidWorks Visualize to create some marketing content, and she wants to manage that documentation that she's created as well within the 3D Experience platform as part of this project. So what Debbie's going to do is create some bookmark folders. So bookmarks are a way of organizing your documents and your SolidWorks design data within the 3D Experience platform. So she's going to go ahead and create a marketing folder. And then she's going to drag and drop some of the PDF and images that she created that were in Windows Explorer into her dashboard. That uploads them to the platform, and you can see they've been given a revision, a document type, and also over to the right hand side there a document name. So they've been given a unique document ID as well. So she can manage the documentation within the 3D Experience platform, so keeping everything related to that project in one place. So then finally, using 3D Play, she can also view her document. So 3D Play is more than just a view, as I mentioned earlier, more than just a viewer for CAD files, for SolidWorks files, and other 3D formats. You can view documents within it. And she's going to do a similar thing to Don. So she's going to post a screenshot of the marketing content that she's created with the rest of the design team, so they can give their feedback and obviously go back and refine it if necessary. So again, just adding to this complete traceable history as the design project develops. And then finally, just like Don did, Debbie's going to finish or set a task to done. And what she's also going to do here is open up the task and attach her documents to the deliverables section. So right at the beginning, you saw Pete adding the SolidWorks assembly to the attachments. So at the end of the task, Debbie's going to go ahead and attach the renderings for Pete. So when Pete looks at the project plan, he's got everything he needs to review that task. So if he's not happy, he might move it back to in progress again and get Debbie to do some more work. So finally, lots happened since we started with Pete. So for the last part of the story, let's just check in with Pete. So Pete's going to review all of the information. So let's take a look at how we can do that. So from his dashboard, he gets a notification up in the top right-hand corner that Debbie's completed her marketing images task. He can go to his projects tab and see the status of all of the tasks. So he can instantly get a view of where everything's at. And all of the tasks are color-coded based on their status. You can also go back to the community and see all of the posts that have been added. So you can see some other work's been taking place. Adam's been doing some simulation work on that front suspension to validate it. And the team members have shared all of their bookmark folders with Pete. So Pete can very easily look in those bookmark folders and view all of the different items that have been shared with him. So for example, they've shared the top level assembly with him. So he can very easily just, again, within his browser dashboard, just view the design data. He can maybe look at Adam's simulation results as well. So this is where you start to see the power of being able to, very quickly access, the right version at the right time, just using your web browser, the browser-based dashboard. So again, as I've mentioned already, you could be doing this on a mobile device even. So finally, we've got a review of the PDF as well. So Pete's happy with everything that's taken place. So what he's going to do is now, so he's responsible for approving the final design. So from his dashboard, he's going to move the top level assembly and all its parts to released. So as a non-SolidWorks user, he can do that from his 3DEXPERIENCE dashboard. He doesn't have to open it up in SolidWorks to do that. So using the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, if you've got project managers or design managers that maybe don't necessarily have to use SolidWorks, you can revision control and change the lifecycle status of your designs and other documents as well directly from your dashboard. So it gives you the complete ability to review the design and approve it without having to go near the CAD tool. So that brings us to the end of the story. I know it's a bit of a whistle-stop tour. Hopefully it gives you a good flavor of what the 3DEXPERIENCE platform is capable of as a product development collaboration solution for people using SolidWorks, designers using SolidWorks. So we're seeing how those 4 team members have been able to communicate both internally and externally and create a project with tasks, utilize various engineering tools, and all while working from a centralized vault essentially. And we're able to stay informed at all times, regardless of what device they might have been working on. And the Bowhead team were able to leverage the 3DEXPERIENCE platform and its many apps, such as Project Planner, Bookmarks, 3D Play. So each team member was assigned specific roles containing all of these different apps to get their jobs done. So Pete was responsible for the project plan, as you saw. So he was assigned the project planner and the industry innovator roles. And in addition to those, Debbie and Don, being designers, were also assigned the collaborative designer for SolidWorks role, and that gave them the task pane view and connection to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform from SolidWorks, and enabled them to be able to lifecycle and revision control their SolidWorks designs. And then the team are all brought together in that one collaborative environment using Collaborative Business Innovator, which is the foundation role of the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. So in summary, 3DEXPERIENCE platform is a fully cloud-based product development solution, as you've seen, which means there's no server to configure, and that's important to understand as well. There's no server to configure or maintain. There's no time-consuming software upgrades to manually deploy, which of course can both significantly reduce your IT overheads whilst providing a secure environment for storing your design data. So all of the server infrastructure is managed by Dassault in Dassault Systèmes data centers. Design teams can very quickly and easily create, review and evaluate their SolidWorks designs, as you've seen. And you can do all of this on any device, while you're in the office or while you're working remotely as well, because all you essentially need is an internet connection, and you can then log in and work on your design project wherever you are. So we've covered a lot, but a lot of good topics there, and then there are many more capabilities available as well for SolidWorks users and teams in your business beyond what you've seen today. And I'm going to be running the next installment on the 18th of June, where I'll showcase some more capabilities for managing your product development process on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform with SolidWorks. So please go ahead and register for that one if you're interested. We'll give you a link to that when the invitations go out and with the follow-up from this morning's webinar. So we've run a little bit over time, but we've got some, if people are happy to hang on, then we can open it up for some questions. And I can see there's a few questions that have come in.
Yes, Mark, this is Ian, just helping out with the Q&A. So here's one for you. Does anyone need a SolidWorks license to use the 3DEXPERIENCE platform?
So to do some of the tasks that you saw Pete, the project manager, do, you don't need a SolidWorks license. So you can, without a SolidWorks license, you can be a part of, a team, a community within the platform that's working on a design project. You only need a SolidWorks license if you want to actually do what Don and Debbie were doing and actually work on your SolidWorks content and revision control it and lifecycle it from SolidWorks.
Okay, thank you, Thibault. The next one from Christos. Great presentation. One question: how safe is the cloud for sharing designs and other sensitive data? In what way are all these data secured in the cloud? So I guess a question about security.
Yeah. So there are many different kind of access levels you can set up. First of all, just within your own business. So when you're storing content on the platform, you can control who sees that content within your own company. Now, if you invite external stakeholders into your 3DEXPERIENCE environment, maybe to work on a project, you can set up secure areas so that when the content is either in one of those secure areas or within a certain lifecycle state, then only those people that you've chosen can see the content. Then speaking really beyond the platform itself, obviously this is all stored on Dassault Systèmes data centers, which again is a highly secure environment. And if you do want some more background, more on the infrastructure side of it, then we also have some white papers that we can share that go into the different security layers from an infrastructure perspective that you can take a look at as well. And we'll be happy to answer any questions that you'd have based on those.
Okay, maybe take a couple more. About the next question is from Dieter about bumping the rev on a part, and we did it manually. I don't know if you want to take that, Mark, or I can.
Yeah, go on in if you've got thoughts on that.
The way that Dieter, the way that Mark showed in the demo is to kind of manually say that this, this object, I think he took some weight out of the suspension, and the overall suspension is then up revision to B. Then that's entirely up to the engineer. If you just want to save and then capture that save as an update, then that's what it is. It just stays as version A. Okay, so it's up to the engineer really how that is done. Next question about migration from PDM, from a current PDM system into 3DEXPERIENCE platform. I guess that's really on a case-by-case basis. There's always lots of questions about migration, whether it's from just the Windows folder structure or whether it's from an existing PDM system. That's something you'd have to look at in terms of the volume of data and complexity of that data. Right, and then the question here from Lalami, thank you for the lesson. Is there an option that saves old revision like we have to go to the revision 2 instead of 4. And that's again what Mark kind of covered. Probably we didn't explain it, is that these revisions obviously get stored. So revision A, B, C, D, all numbers as you've put, 2 instead of 4, and you can always go back to an old revision, and that revision is captured or will capture the revision of the parts that were stored with it as well. Martin, the question, does it link with any existing SolidWorks PDM environment? That's a good question. So at the moment, there's no direct link within PDM. Remember that this solution is purely on cloud, where SolidWorks PDM is purely on premise, i.e. you need to have a server with IT support. So that's something that's maybe for the future. And maybe the last one here, if someone is working on a sub-assembly and he locks it, would the main assembly or maybe a stage above the assembly is going to be locked as well? Mark, you could probably answer that. I think I know the answer, but I know you could probably explain it better than me.
Sorry, can you just repeat the question?
Sorry, I probably get thrown you a bit of a curveball. So if you lock a part or a sub-assembly, will the stage above it automatically be locked?
Yeah, well, when you lock a particular part, you can choose also which parts or which sub references that you want to lock as well. Mm-hmm. So if you're
sorry to cut in, Mark. I think the question, what I would say there, Abhishek, is you may not necessarily want to automatically lock the assembly above, because if you think of the context of the wheelchair that we saw, Mark was working, or Don, I think the character was working on the suspension. He didn't necessarily want to lock the top level assembly because potentially someone else could be working on the wheel design or the chassis. So you can have multiple people, and it does enable multiple people to work on a single assembly, and then all of the changes that they're making to that assembly can get rolled up into the master model. So it's really up to the designer.
And at the same time, if you do want to check, reserve multiple items in one go, then you can select them and reserve them in bulk as well.
Okay, and the last one, and more of a comment. Great presentation. This is from Mark Jones, who I remember from my distant past. It takes me back to my days in the 90s when I was demoing Pro Engineer as much as 3 times a day. So thanks for that, Mark. Hope you're well. Will the webinar be available to show the rest of the team? Yes, I think there will be a recording available. So for all of you guys who've logged in, and I think even the people who didn't manage to make it, you will get an email with the link that takes you straight to this recording.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Right. Do you want to finish up there, Mark? Thank you, everyone.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Ian. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of this morning's session. So once again, thank you, everybody, for attending. Appreciate you all taking the time out, and we'll see you all on the 18th.